From the ancient sands, a story unfolds, a tapestry woven with faith and shadowed by doubt. It is a narrative that has echoed through millennia, shaping civilizations and challenging generations. A whisper of history, a bold declaration of divine intervention. But what if the ancient accounts, those sacred texts, hold within them the very keys to their own verification? What if the echoes of the past are not mere legends, but tangible evidence waiting to be unearthed? Join us on an investigation into the heart of biblical history, where archaeology and scripture converge to illuminate the enduring truth of events that shaped our world. We seek not to impose belief, but to uncover the solid ground upon which ancient narratives stand. To follow the breadcrumbs of evidence scattered across the landscapes of the ancient Near East. To ask the critical questions and present the verifiable facts. For in the intersection of faith and facts, we find not just history, but a profound connection to those who walk before us. A testament to lives lived and a covenant upheld. Our journey begins in the cradle of civilization, a land of stark beauty and ancient power, where the mighty Tigris and Euphrates rivers carved fertile valleys through arid plains. This is the region of Mesopotamia and the Levant, a crossroads of empires and a stage for epic human drama. Ancient pathways, trodden by kings, merchants, and migrating peoples, crisscross this land, connecting distant cultures and facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas. The specific focus of our investigation lies within the heart of Canaan, a land that would become known as Israel, a territory stretching from the Mediterranean coast eastward towards the unforgiving Syrian desert. Here, the modern archaeological sites of Megiddo, Hazor, and Hazor stand as silent witnesses to a tumultuous past, their layers of occupation revealing the ebb and flow of power and conflict. Prepare for an immersive 3D mapping sequence that will transport you across this ancient terrain, revealing the strategic importance and geographical context of these pivotal historical locations. The narrative we explore is set against the backdrop of the Late Bronze Age, a period of immense geopolitical complexity and cultural flourishing in the ancient Near East, roughly spanning from 1550 to 1200 BC. During this era, powerful empires like Egypt, the Hittites, and Mesopotamia exerted significant influence over the smaller kingdoms and city-states of Canaan. Biblical tradition places the patriarchs, including the pivotal events surrounding Jacob's blessing of his sons, within this broader historical framework, projecting forward from Abraham, a figure whose life is chronologically aligned with the early stages of the Middle Bronze Age and the rise of significant Amorite dynasties. This lineage, stretching from Adam through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, extends to the formation of the 12 tribes of Israel, a foundational moment in the development of the Israelite nation. The chronological arc of this narrative continues through the Exodus from Egypt, the conquest of Canaan, the period of the Judges, the united monarchy under Saul, David, and Solomon, and ultimately culminates with the coming of Jesus Christ, thus bridging vast swaths of human history and connecting the ancient past to the present day. And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. He called his beloved son Joseph, and presented him with a coat of many colors, a gift that ignited the bitter jealousy of his brothers. They plotted against him, their hearts filled with envy and hatred. They stripped him of his special tunic, threw him into a dry well, and sold him to Ishmaelite traders heading towards Egypt. Later, in Egypt, Joseph rose to a position of great authority, second only to Pharaoh himself. A famine gripped the land of Canaan, forcing Jacob's sons to travel to Egypt to buy grain. They stood before their brother, now a powerful Egyptian official, but they did not recognize him. Joseph tested them, his heart torn between revelation and retribution. Finally, he could bear it no longer, and he revealed himself, weeping aloud, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" The reunion was a moment of profound emotional release, and Jacob, along with his entire household, was invited to settle in the fertile land of Goshen in Egypt, a place of abundance amidst the widespread famine. It was in his final days, as Jacob's strength waned, that he gathered his sons around him, preparing to bestow his final blessings and prophecies upon them, a moment of immense spiritual and familial significance. Hyksos-Era Scarab Seal. The biblical account of Joseph's life and the subsequent migration of Jacob's family into Egypt is often situated within a complex historical and archaeological context, and one artifact that offers a unique, albeit debated, point of reference for understanding Egyptian interactions with Canaan during this formative period is the Hyksos-Era Scarab Seal. These small, intricately carved amulets, often made of steatite, faience, or semi-precious stones, were deeply significant in ancient Egyptian culture, serving as seals, jewelry, and religious talismans. The Hyksos, a group of foreign rulers who controlled Lower and Middle Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period, circa 1652–1550 BC, adopted many Egyptian customs and administrative practices, including the use of scarab seals. The presence of scarabs bearing royal names or titles, particularly those dating to the Hyksos period, found in Canaan, suggests a degree of political and economic interaction between Egypt and the region. While the direct connection of a specific scarab seal to the biblical narrative of Joseph is speculative, requires careful interpretation. These artifacts provide crucial evidence for the Egyptian presence and influence in Canaan preceding the New Kingdom, a period when many scholars place the patriarch's sojourn. Moreover, the materials and craftsmanship of these seals offer insights into trade networks and technological exchanges between Egypt and its neighbors. The styles and inscriptions on Hyksos-Era scarabs are catalogued by archaeologists and epigraphers, allowing for a relative dating of their production and dissemination. The distribution patterns of these seals across various archaeological sites in the Levant have been instrumental in mapping the extent of Hyksos' influence and their interactions with local Canaanite populations. Minimalist and maximalist academics remain divided on the precise dating of the patriarchal narratives and their correlation with specific Egyptian dynasties. But the prevalence of Hyksos-Era Egyptian artifacts in Canaan does indicate a period of sustained Egyptian engagement with the region that predates the height of Egyptian imperial control under the New Kingdom pharaohs. This engagement is critical when considering the plausibility of Canaanites, like Jacob's family, having knowledge of or interaction with Egyptian society and administration. If you find this meticulous approach to evidence compelling, please consider leaving a like to support our ongoing investigations. Wait, the evidence goes deeper. The Amarna letters provide a remarkable window into the political landscape of Canaan and its relationship with the dominant Egyptian empire during the mid-14th century BC. These are not pristine, formal diplomatic documents, but rather a collection of over 380 clay tablets written in Akkadian cuneiform, the lingua franca of diplomacy and administration throughout the ancient Near East at that time. Discovered by chance by local villagers near the modern village of Amarna, the ancient capital of Akhenaten, the letters primarily consist of correspondence between the ruling Egyptian pharaohs and their vassal rulers in Canaan, as well as letters exchanged between these various rulers. The content reveals a fragmented Canaan characterized by intense intercity rivalries, territorial disputes, and pleas for Egyptian military intervention against internal rebels and encroaching groups. The letters frequently mention city names, rulers, and geopolitical situations that resonate with descriptions found in later biblical texts, particularly concerning the period of the Israelite conquest. While the Amarna letters predate the traditional time frame for the Exodus and conquest by several decades to a century, they establish the crucial context of Egyptian hegemony over Canaan and the existence of a complex network of city-states with distinct ruling elites. The language used, the titles of officials, and the very nature of the correspondence offer a vivid portrayal of the political and social environment into which the early Israelites would eventually emerge. Scholars analyze the grammatical structures, vocabulary, and stylistic conventions of the Amarna letters to understand the nuances of Canaanite dialects, as written by scribes trained in Akkadian. This linguistic analysis provides a rich dataset for comparative semantics and can inform our understanding of the linguistic milieu from which the Hebrew Bible arose. The letters depict a region where loyalty to Egypt was often tenuous, and where local rulers, referred to as abdi servants or vassals, were constantly vying for power and security, sometimes resorting to betraying one another to gain favor with the distant Egyptian throne. This portrayal of political instability and internal conflict within Canaan presents a backdrop against which the biblical narrative of the Israelite settlement can be more readily understood. The sheer volume and variety of these tablets offer an unprecedented level of detail regarding the political fragmentation and the complex web of allegiances and rivalries that defined the region for centuries. Amarna Letters Clay Tablet, the Late Bronze Age destruction layer at Hazor. One of the most significant archaeological sites in northern Israel, offers compelling physical evidence of widespread upheaval and destruction in Canaan around the very time many scholars associate with the Israelite settlement. Hazor, a vast and strategically vital city, was a major Canaanite royal center and a nexus of trade routes during the Late Bronze Age. Excavations at the site, particularly in the upper city, have revealed evidence of a catastrophic destruction event dating to the end of this period, characterized by thick layers of ash, collapsed buildings, and a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, weapons, and administrative seals, all buried beneath the debris. The intensity and scale of this destruction layer have led many archaeologists to link it to the military campaigns described in the biblical books of Joshua and Judges, particularly the conquest narrative. While biblical chronology itself is a subject of ongoing debate among scholars, with minimalist and maximalist interpretations offering different timelines for the Exodus and conquest, the archaeological evidence of destruction at Hazor and other major Canaanite cities like Lachish and Megiddo provides a tangible correlation to the upheaval described in ancient texts. The findings at Hazor include evidence of scorched timbers, massive stone collapses, and a sudden abandonment of the site, indicative of a violent end to its Late Bronze Age occupation. The stratigraphy, the study of the layers of earth and debris, is crucial here, as it allows archaeologists to date these events with relative precision by analyzing the pottery styles, carbonized organic materials, and other associated finds within the destruction layer. The destruction at Hazor appears to have been widespread, affecting multiple areas of the city, suggesting a thorough dismantling of its defenses and infrastructure by an invading force. This physical evidence of widespread destruction and subsequent abandonment or rebuilding at a reduced scale aligns with the biblical portrayal of conquest and resettlement. Moreover, the presence of Egyptian-style artifacts mixed with local, Canaanite material within the destruction layer at Hazor hints at the complex political and military landscape of the time, potentially reflecting the broader power dynamics in the region, including Egyptian influence and intervention during the Late Bronze Age and the transition into the Iron Age. The ongoing excavation and analysis of Hazor continue to refine our understanding of this pivotal period, offering material confirmation of the dramatic changes that reshaped the ancient Near East. Tell us in the comments below what other ancient biblical sites you would like us to investigate. These three pillars of evidence, the Hyksos-Era Scarab Seals, indicating Egyptian presence and interaction in Canaan, the Amarna letters illuminating the fragmented political landscape and Canaanite subservience to Egypt, and the Late Bronze Age destruction layer at Hazor, revealing widespread upheaval, collectively form a robust, evidence-based case for the historical plausibility of the biblical narratives surrounding Joseph and the period of the patriarchs and the subsequent Israelite emergence. While no single artifact directly names Jacob or Joseph, each piece of evidence corroborates the conditions, geopolitical realities, and cultural interactions described or implied within the biblical text. The scarab seals demonstrate that Egyptians and Canaanites were in contact, and that Egyptian cultural artifacts were present in Canaan. The Amarna letters reveal a fractured Canaan ripe for external influence or conquest, with local rulers frequently appealing to Egypt, thus supporting the idea that a group moving into Egypt would have had some familiarity with Egyptian affairs. The destruction layer at Hazor provides stark archaeological confirmation of the violent and transformative events that characterize the Late Bronze Age transition into the Iron Age, a period of significant upheaval that aligns with the biblical accounts of conquest and resettlement. These findings, when considered together, do not just support the biblical narrative. They establish a credible historical and archaeological context that makes the scriptural accounts historically probable. This confluence of archaeological data and ancient textual evidence invites us to consider the biblical accounts not as myth, but as history, grounded in the realities of the ancient world. If you found this episode insightful, please hit the like button and subscribe to Faith and Facts for more investigative journeys into the past.